peeps, I hope you all are feeling fabulous today. This video is on ENS, which stands for Emptiness Syndrome. And for those of you who do not know what ENS is that sense of deep anxiety, sadness, and distress that one parent or both parents feel when the last of the children exits the home. And along with those feelings comes that feeling of hopelessness, not knowing what else to do. And that's because you've spent all your time. It was all consumed with your child. I decided this topic because I myself just became an empty nester. And right before it happened, I was all giddy and so forth, talking about how excited I was to have the home to myself, me and my husband, right? But my friends certainly put a pin in my happiness. They were telling me things like, I don't know what you're excited about because you're going to be depressed and you're going to take a long time before you get back into your groove of things. And interestingly though, when I asked them why they felt that way or why they were saying those things to me, they couldn't give me anything concrete. They didn't give me a definitive answer. So anybody who knows me knows what I did next, right? I picked up the closest device I had near me, which was my cell phone, and I Googled emptiness syndrome. You got it, I certainly did. And oddly enough, when I looked online, the internet didn't actually give me what I was looking for. They said pretty much the same thing that my friends were telling me. And when I was trying to search for the why, the only thing that it would give me is what I can do once emptiness syndrome set in. I was looking for more, like, why does it happen? And what can I do to prevent it? So that's the reason for my video. But even though my friends and the internet couldn't tell me exactly why or what I can do, I did still realize that emptiness syndrome was a real thing, because when I looked at the research online, it was talking about how many people suffered from depression. And we know anytime you start talking about depression, thoughts and talks about suicide comes in, and that's a very serious situation. And I'll tell you this, when I read that information and I heard what I heard from my friends, it really freaked me out because I was believing everything that they said. I believed that I was going to be depressed. I was going to be anxious. I was going to feel like I didn't have any hope or anything like that. And I was dreading the fact that I was going to feel off, not be able to get into my groove. But guess what happened when my last child got out the house? Nothing as to what they were talking about. So it was the total opposite. It was just like I thought. And I was so shocked the fact that it didn't happen because they were truly convincing. Both the research online and my friends. It was very convincing to me. I kid you not. And it scared me to death. I am not going to lie to you. But anyway, I was glad to know that I didn't experience it though. Because unlike most mothers, even though I love my children to pieces, trust me, I love them to death. But when they made 16 years of age, I think it was about 16 years of age, I started counting down the days, baby, because I was ready to have my house again to myself, me and my husband, right? So I counted down the days and I was ready for them to leave. It doesn't mean I didn't love them. It doesn't mean I didn't love their presence, because I loved every bit of it while they were here, precious. And of course I felt something when they left, but it just wasn't like they said. And I guess you can say the partying sense of it overpowered my baby is leaving home, So I was very shocked, and when the last of my three left the home, man, I was so shocked when none of that stuff happened, but I definitely was happy. So that's why I'm doing this video. I wanted to give a little information on why it happens and what can be done to keep it from happening. because I think that's important. We don't want anybody out here feeling depressed to the point that they feel like they must take their lives. Now, before I go any further, I just want to preface the rest of this video with the statement that I am in no way a doctor, an expert on the subject of empty nest syndrome in any way. This video is simply a platform that I plan to use to express my personal experience with empty nest syndrome, or lack of it, that is, and also to talk about the information that I received off the internet, which is available to every last one of us, so that's no biggie, and also to point out what I believe contributed to the fact that I didn't experience that empty nest syndrome, and which I think will help others down the line. Now, what I've gathered is a major factor is that first decision that parents make when the first of their children is due to arrive, right? I think as a couple, when they start having children, they individually or together make a decision regarding the amount of time that they're going to focus on the children, so to speak. I mean, it's really more so an unspoken decision, not necessarily, because you make your plans and so forth. You talk about who's going to do this, who's going to do that. So it's like how much attention is going to be put or placed on that part of the family dynamic, right? Now, for me, I didn't have to make the choice. I truly believe that my firstborn made the decision for me. And let me tell you why. With my firstborn, kid you not, this baby, he was beautiful in the sense that, of course, beautiful appearance-wise as well. But he was beautiful in the sense that he didn't cause me a lot of problems. And I didn't have to do much with him. He was so laid back. And even with the pregnancy, y'all, he was easy. Like, people who walked up behind me wouldn't even know that I was pregnant. And when I turned around, they would be so surprised because, hey, it didn't mess up my girly figure. And I know all of us want that when we're pregnant, right? But it didn't mess up my girly figure. I didn't have all that other stuff like morning sickness. I must admit, the only thing I had was two things that messed me up, and it was milk and eggs, and it was 2 breakfast meals. All I had to do was stay away from those 2 things, and I was good. Granted, those 2 things are things that I really like, but that's okay. There's a lot of things I can eat for breakfast, right? But he was good with the delivery, and I mean with the carrying of him. And baby, when it was time to deliver him, it was just as easy. When he came out, all I heard was I don't know if anybody else who's pregnant experienced that, but that's literally all it felt like was, it was so easy, like a little flutter coming on out. And baby, when the doctor came and put him in my arms, guess what my baby did? He smiled at me, y'all, and I smiled at him with teary eyes. It was such a beautiful and wonderful moment. Oh man, I want everyone to experience that. So that experience, that perfect experience, I don't want to say perfect, but that great experience, it carried on when I brought him home. He was such a great baby because all he did was eat, sleep, eat, sleep. I kid you not, that's all he did. It was so bad to the point, not bad because it was good because I didn't have much to do, but it did cause me a little bit of worry because I had to keep on checking on him, right, to make sure he was alive, you know, because I kept hearing all these stories, other people who had children murmuring in my ear, telling me, oh, you got to make sure he's not, you got to make sure nothing is wrong. He could have SIDS. That could happen. And, oh, man, they were telling me all kind of crazy things that driving me crazy. And I just want to do a side point here at this moment. If you are pregnant right now, please do your best to drown out all the murmurings from everybody else, because people have a tendency of putting all their bad or negative experiences off on you. And I don't think that's fair, because you could potentially rob someone who is thinking about having a baby. If you scare them to pieces like that, you scare the heck out of people. They might say, I don't want no children. I just want to say, don't let anybody else rob you of that joy. Because when it comes down to it, it's not about what they experienced. Basically, and to the fact, what it really is, it's based on the individual, on their circumstances, on their health, on their family history. It has absolutely nothing to do about random women who had pregnancies and how their pregnancies were for them. It has nothing to do with you. It's based on your own experience, how you took care of your own body, what's in your own family history. Now, don't erase or ignore the murmurs that come from your family members. I don't want you to do that. I mean, try to avoid the murmurings that's coming from outsiders, people that have nothing to do with you as far as family-wise, because their experience is just that. Their experience is not yours. Having a baby, entering into that parenthood and that family life, like that part of the family life, is such a beautiful thing. I kid you not. Especially when you get your baby in your arms. It's so precious, man. So don't let anybody rob you of that. All right, back to the issue at hand. So many people were telling me all kinds of things. They were telling me stuff like my baby is gonna stay up all night. They're gonna keep me up. They get colicky. I mean, every negative thing that you can think of, that's what people were telling me. But in reality, let me tell you how it was truthfully for me. My firstborn was great, I tell you this. He did not wake me up midnight. He did not wake me up mid-morning. I mean, he slept totally through the night. Like I told you before, so much so that I had to keep checking in on him, you know. Now, I must admit, my second child, if he sees this video, he's going to say, Mama, why you have to talk negative about me? But they're all adults now. But he was colicky. He was the type person that he couldn't take the breast milk because he couldn't latch on. And so I couldn't do it. I had to give him regular, like Infamil. And it gave him gas like I don't know what. So he was very, very colicky. And I kid you not, he kept me up all night. He made up for what my firstborn gave me a break on. That's all I can tell you. So my firstborn, he made things so easy for me. I kid you not. And that's why I tell you that he made the decision for me as far as how much attention. And it was because of how easy he made it for me, I was afforded that opportunity to balance out the attention that I had. I was able to give attention to him, attention to myself, because that's important, and attention to my spouse. Each person in that family dynamic needs the proper amount of attention, because if I was not to give myself attention, how could I be a good mother for my child? And of course, we don't want the father to feel neglected either and leave out giving him the attention that he needs, or her the attention that she needs, because truthfully, it could be the husband that wind up do all the things for the child. So that was good with my firstborn. I didn't have to divulge all of my attention to him. I didn't have to make that decision to either divulge all the attention to him or to spread it out evenly like it should. Not evenly, because I think our children should get a little bit more attention than that. Because, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that much attention is not supposed to go to our young ones, because our precious bundle of joys most definitely require our attention. I'm just saying that all of the attention shouldn't just shift from one to the other. We have to do it with balance. So that major factor is indeed that decision. And I think it's an important one, because it will either affect positively or negatively that relationship that you've had with your significant other before the children started coming. So that is key. And the rest of this video will pinpoint why that's such an important decision that we have to make, you and your significant other. As a matter of fact, any of the viewers who are parents already, I want you to reflect back on how it was for you before you started having children. I mean, it was just you and your significant other. And it was all about the two of you, right? Because you didn't have anybody else to worry about or to take care of, for that matter. So it was just the two of you, what you love, what he loved, what she loved, you know. So, but then if you fast forward to the time you had your first baby, what happened? Did all of the attention shift? Or what I really want to know, did you feel a shift in the attention? And I'm certain that you do, because we all know how important it is to give attention to our newborn baby. So just think about that as we go through the whole thing, the whole video, which is not going to be that long, I promise. And I did do the research, and I'll put it in the description for you guys, but it gave a wealth of information as to how deep empty nest runs. And that is another reason why I decided to do the video, because if we can help even just one person, that's a great thing, you know, to not experience that empty nest syndrome, because it could potentially be a very, very bad thing. But anyway, for many, it's usually the woman. For many relationships, it's usually the woman who wind up divulging all of her attention to the child. She makes that big old shift from her husband and herself, the relationship they have, to give to the child. And like I said before, that's all good and dandy, but we can't just make the shift. We have to make the shift with a balance, because if you make that shift without balancing, then you get that snowball effect. And what I mean by that is, by divulging all your attention just to the baby, with that comes the feelings of neglect. And if people feel neglected, then you'll have a breakdown of communication. From the breakdown of communication, then you'll have disunity and, of course, abandonment. And that abandonment can be either mentally, or it can be physically, or both. It can start off with mentally and then eventually physical abandonment. So don't let that be you. So the question arises, how could you not make sure that it's not you? I think there's three things, not think, because I've experienced this. I think it was the three things that I did with my first child that carried on to my other two children, even though the middle one was a colicky, and that last one, the youngest one, he was just a little rascal. He was so bad. So I did have to give a little bit more attention to him, but I still had the balance. And I was able to have that balance because of my first kid. He set the bar, so to speak, and I knew that needed to happen. And then to your significant other, if they see that with that first child you weren't neglecting them, that's what they're gonna be looking for any subsequent children, right? So he set the bar. So I think these three things that I'm about to mention is what helped me not feel the effects of empty nest syndrome. So the first one has much to do with the shift of the attention. When you make that shift, because all of your attention goes to the baby, when the child leaves the home after 18, 19, 20, 21 or more years later, what do you think happens? You find yourself living with someone who you, so to speak, put on the back burner. And in essence, that's just you being in the house with a stranger, because you no longer know that person. And that's because throughout the years, those 18, 19, 20 or more years, you're growing apart. And if you weren't giving that attention to them, and all those snowball effects that's taken place, the breakdown of communication, the disunity and the abandonment mentally, then you're missing out on the changes of your significant other, because you're not going to be the same person that you were when you first met at 17 or whatever age it is. But after 18 years of your children growing up and leaving a home, you're both different people. So it's important to make sure you schedule date night. Depends on how busy you are. I would say weekly, having that date night. It don't have to always be outside of the home. It could be in the home that you spend that time, and make sure your children go stay by someone else. You know what I mean? Just make sure you have that quality time with your significant other. That is so important, because you continue to get to know them as they are growing and they get to know you. If you fail to do that and just make that shift without that balance, what you'll find at the end of the 18, 19, 20, 21 years or more when the children leave the home is you'll find that big old gap that you have to try and bridge together. And sometimes the gap is so big that you just can't do it. And sad to say, some marriages just don't last, and they end in divorce because they wind up being so far apart. They don't know each other, and it's so hard for them to get back together. And to tell you the truth, sometimes it may be one person feeling themselves. They don't want to even take the time to try and get to know you again, because they feel so hurt that you would put them on the back burner. So you want to make sure that you don't do that. Don't let that be you now. I'll tell you that again. And I would say about that, there's only one situation, in my opinion, where you would have to not stick to that schedule. And that's if it involves your children, and I mean health-wise, like it's a health issue or a life or death situation, which I hope won't ever be the case, but it could be a sickness or whatever. And even in the extent that it is related to your child, you still don't want to cancel it all out. You want to reschedule it for later on in the week, if possible, depending on how what the sickness is, right? But if you can reschedule it, make sure you reschedule it, because it's very important. If you reschedule it, then you ensure that the two of you stay together. Thus, you continue to grow together instead of growing apart. Now, the second thing is thinking of it has something to do with a 24-hour day, right? When you think of a 24-hour day, especially the weekday, normally every member in that family has to go off and do their own thing. You know, you may have the parents that have to go out and to their jobs and work. If they don't work, one parent may have to go out and do chores or be around the home. The children have to exit the home to go to school, and then even after school programs and activities they have to do. So that means that during a big chunk of the day, no family member is really privy to what the other is going through. You know, you don't know what they're experiencing throughout that day, the hard times that they may be going through, the joys that they may be experiencing. So for number 2, what's very important is making sure that as a family, you eat together with laughter and conversation, minus, yes, even for me, minus the electronic device. Because, and I know that's hard, because this day and age is the electronic day and age, right? But we really need to make sure we put that on the side and give our family our undivided attention, because that's the time. Dinner time is the focal point for families to come together and really bond together, get to know each other, get to know what's going on in their lives during the times when they're away from each other, so they can come to you and express why they feel down, what troubling thing happened to them during the day. They can also tell you what great things happened to them during the day. So it's a time for them to release the badness and to pick up goodness. So get all that bad stuff off of their chest that they went through for the day, and come back to the table and get that encouragement and that comfort from their family. So that's a very important time. So just make sure you keep that. And again, just like the date night, you don't want to skip a day when you're eating together with your family. Of course, extenuating circumstances, right? If somebody had to go away on vacation or something like that, that's understandable. It is very important because you're bonding as a family. And that helps the family as a whole. It helps them to stay connected to each other. And again, that is very important because as you're eating those meals together and getting to know one another, that's knowledge in your head. You can feel confident knowing that your child is growing or that they're maturing. You get to see how their thinking is developing and making the right choices and things like that. You get to see how they are receptive of criticism, receptive of encouragement, because believe it or not, some people can hear encouragement and it doesn't faze them or move them. So that's a good thing. If your child sees this and has a habit of having that during that family time, that support from their family, yeah, it's going to be easy for them to accept encouragement and let that build them up so that they continue on and be able to go the next day. And that third and final thing is based on the anxiety and stuff that come. It kind of goes hand in hand with the second step, right? Because it has much to do with not understanding whether, or that belief that, or that worry and anxiety that your child will not be able to take care of themselves. So how do you fix that? It's a two-parter thing for that as well. First of all, we have to remember that our children are not meant to be with us for the rest of their lives in that home with us, is what I'm saying. They have to get out on their own and start their own family. So for that 18 to 21 or more years, depending on if we allow them to stay living in the home through college years, we're teaching them life lessons and things like that. And if we do that, we have to remember that that's our role as a parent, to teach them during the time that they are living in our house for that 18 to 21 or more years. You know, that way we'll know and feel confident that when they get out on their own, they can handle situations. And doing so will aid them in becoming responsible adults as well, because they can see it themselves too, right? We want them to be able to make decisions for themselves, get out, make a life for themselves, and not only for themselves, but also for their family if they choose to have a family of their own. You know, a husband or a wife and some children. We want them to be able to do that on their own. And that's something they can't do if we just coddle them. So that leads us to the second part of it, and that's letting go in stages, you know, based on their age. So as they reach certain age or milestones in their lives, we want to be loosening up the reins that we have on them, giving them a little bit more responsibilities, and just talking to them and giving them the life lessons. That's more teaching and so forth. That way, when they fail, they won't get into the habit of allowing the fear to stifle them. And when that happens, they don't want to face any problems anymore. And we don't want that for them, because if we see that happening, then yeah, we're going to have that anxiety and that dread of letting them leave the home, because we're going to feel like that they can't take care of themselves. But if we let them go in stages, we can feel comfortable knowing that they can take care of themselves. Now in my household, and believe it, sometimes you have some children, it's different circumstances, because some children may just not be able to do it. But for the most part, if you follow that course of thing, your child will be able to live their life and learn from the lessons that you're setting, be able to grow from the loosening of the reins and ages and stages rather. So just do that, and trust me, you will find it to be very beneficial, because it is very beneficial for the children. And let me tell you those benefits. Number one, they feel confident in themselves. Once they see that they can make decisions on their own, and they feel confident, especially when they see those decisions be successful, reap successful results, put it that way. And number two, they can feel comforted knowing that they feel that you trust them enough to give them or loosen that rein and let them make a decision for themselves. So that's good too. And number 3, they get to learn from their mistakes. And I kind of like touched on that already. They get to learn from their mistakes. They learn how to pick themselves up as opposed to wallowing in their failures or wallowing in their errors. We don't want them to do that, because if they do that and stay with that, that's going to stifle them and keep them from moving forward or progressing forward or tackling something again. They're going to let fear stop them from growing. And if that happens, then you have a problem on your hand. You're going to experience emptiness syndrome, because you're going to know already that your child can't get past something because they weren't learning. So if you see anything like that and you see them handling in that way, just talk to them. Give them experience, life experience. Trust me, even telling them your own experiences where you were stifled helps, and what you did to get yourself up out of it. And that will help them and let them see that fearing things just holds you back. But if you conquer it and press on, then you learn how to face it and you're ready for the next big challenge, right? So that's a good thing. Now not only is it a benefit for the children, it's a benefit for us, the parents, as well. Because once we see them handle all those responsibilities as we keep loosening the reins, that comforts us as well. We get to understand and see and appreciate that our children are becoming young adults. So therefore we can sit back and enjoy the view from afar as our precious young children grow to be responsible adults, able to take care of themselves, and like I said before, of their families, if they so choose to have families. And even if they should come to us for advice, which we know what happened, because we know how it was for us. We were responsible when we were growing up, but we still every once in a while may have needed to go to our parents and ask for their advice. But we just have to remember, don't revert backwards. Remember our place and just let them go ahead and give them the advice. We don't want to tell them what to do, just give them advice so that they will learn. It's up to them whether or not they want to take it or not. If they don't, they have to learn from their mistakes. And just remember, when they were living in our house, they had to learn from mistakes as well. And they took it well. And they will be able to take it well again in their adulthood, even more so as an adult. And another part, we have a 2-part for our benefit. When we do those 3 things, guess what we can appreciate and be happy about? The fact that we still have a connection with that significant other that lives in a home with us. And that's a big thing. We don't have to worry about trying to bridge a gap so that we can find each other again, because we will have already continued on in our relationship, having that date night. So we don't have to waste years trying to find our way back to each other. What we can do is look forward to enjoying that quality time with each other again like we had before we start having children, all right? So that's all I have for you guys. I hope this was a very informative video for you guys. And even if one person benefited from it, then this video has done exactly what I wanted it to do. So leave your comment in the comment area if you feel like it was helpful to you. I'd appreciate that. And thank you so much for watching. This is Shell signing out. Bye, fam.